population of 4,000 faces a year of uncertainty. Against the overwhelming competition of oil, North Sea gas and nuclear energy, can Craghead Colliery and its dependent community survive? Pit manager is John Hughes.
Craghead has been here as a mining community for well over 100 years. Its present size was probably determined at the time of the Boer War, as the names of many of the streets bear evidence to this. Apart from some council houses, there has been no development or building of any size since then. I've been here as a manager for the past 5 years, and in that time we've rationalised the pit. There were over 1,400 men when I came here, and we now have a little over 800 men. The output has been kept more or less the same, and since we face the exhaustion of our thicker seam in the very near future, we will be meeting some difficulties. And we're hoping that as we're making a small profit at the moment, we can continue to do this and continue to remain in an economic position. The miners in Craghead have lived here for 2 or 3 generations. Their fathers have followed sons into the pit. They are probably therefore amongst the most loyal and have a very strong sense of loyalty. And we like to think, in fact we're sure, that these are some of the best type of workmen in any industry, and certainly the best in the coal board.
My name is George Yard, better known as George Yard. I'm 58 years of age. I was born at Craghead. I worked on the ground all my life at Craghead, and I've got a daughter and a son called Brian, and he's also working on the ground.
All right, then. I followed my father into the pit 12 years ago, and I've been there ever since. The reason I went into the pit was because all my friends was working there, and there was more or less nothing else to do. I like the job I've got, like. I wouldn't like to part with it, you know. Quite content where I'm at there now.
My name is George Hancock. I started work underground when I was 14 and 3 days old. There wasn't much choice in them days, not with a family of 15 and only my father working. I went to London during the war, came to Craghead in 1945, and I've been here ever since.
If this pit was to close, I would accept my redundancy tomorrow. Nearly 44 years down the pit, you know what I mean? It's a fair good length of time. I haven't got the figures, but I know the people in Craghead. I would think about 2 or 3 years after they're finished. That is retired at 65. 9 out of every 10 dies. The simple reason is the engine's finished. They worked that hard all their lives. You see what I mean? I contend the retiring age should be 55. And that's honest. I definitely tried to persuade Brian not to go down the pit. I advised him for to go to a factory, or in fact I got him enticed for to go to night schools for to learn a trade, but no, he would go down the pit. He wanted money.
Well, I don't quite agree with my father as far as working underground's concerned. He doesn't seem to think it's a life for anybody, but I mean, he's worked down there all his life, and I mean, if that was his attitude, he should have gotten out the pits long ago. My wife, Pamela, and I have been married 4.5 years. And my daughter, Susan, she's 2.5-year-old, and we're expecting the second child just at the turn of the year, about January or February. The wife, she wants us out the pits. She'll be prepared for it to make ends meet with less money and all, I think. If the worst does come to the worst, and we are finished at the colliery, I don't think I'll consider going to another mining area.
I like to go walking with the dog because it is really a relief after being down the pit all day.
I think she's just about out of day.
I've never been really a club man. I like to be a freelance. And as my father always said, when you've got a shilling in your pocket, you can please yourself where you go and how you spend it. My wife, Maggie, and me have been married over 30 years now. And we've been all right together. We've had our quarrels, our ups and downs. She's never been underground, but there's many times I wish she'd been going down instead of me. Well, if Craghead Colliery were to close, I suppose the village would just automatically die out. Couldn't do otherwise, because we've got premises now that's closed, and other people's selling the business, so they're getting out of there now. The way things are, I can't see Craghead staying open more than a couple of years at the most.
A.m., Saturday, July the 20th, 1968. Work stops as Craghead prepares to follow its band and banner to the big meeting, the 85th annual Durham Miners Gala. The gala is traditionally the day when miners from towns and villages throughout County Durham, villages like Craghead, can air their grievances and listen as their union leaders express their hopes and fears and attempt to extract promises from invited socialist speakers. Durham is the birthplace of coal mining. Yet even here, during last year, 5,000 miners were laid off as pit after pit closed. What hopes and decisions will today's confrontation with the government offer for the future of Craghead?
It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the city of Durham and to express the hope that you may thoroughly enjoy the time you spend here, despite the weather.
This year, the burning issue is Seaton Carew, a proposed power station for the Durham coast. If fired by coal, it should provide 10,000 miners with jobs for 25 years. If, however, nuclear power is to supply the fuel, then the future of the entire Durham coalfield will be threatened. The miners' union leader is Alf Hesler.
Ladies and gentlemen, last year, when I was standing on this platform, I was speaking of the Seaton Carew power station. Now, this is of vital importance to the Durham miner, because if the government decide to coal-fire this power station, then this would give us the relief we are looking for and give us some breathing space. I wonder if I could pose two questions to our friends on the platform, the Labour government. The first question is this: is there going to be a power station? And the second question is it going to be coal-fired?
I am deeply conscious of the tribute that you have paid in allowing me to be here this morning on Platform 1. You are not the ones who theorize about the need for change in Britain. You are the ones who have to experience it. Because, comrades, Britain must adapt herself in the age of industrial change. Yes, we've had to ask you to do it in the mining industry. By definition, the Labour Party is the party of fundamental change. And therefore, by definition, the task of a Labour government will always be more difficult than that of a Tory one.
Mr. Chairman, in view of the weather, I'll keep my customary benediction very short indeed. You referred a year ago to Seaton Carew. I don't want to raise any hopes about it, but it is not yet possible to take a decision. I repeat what I said last year: when that decision is taken, it will be taken at the highest level on technical factors, economic factors, and social factors, all brought into consideration. Finally, Mr. Chairman, I say this: reference has been made to the future of this industry because I know of the anxiety. In 1970, the coal industry will still be supplying half the total energy requirements of this country. And at next year's gala, I hope in better weather, we'll have a better story to tell.
Well, we've been living under sort of an economic threat now for a good many years at Craghead. You must remember Craghead was one of the pits named in 1965 of the 150 that were going to close, because mainly of economic reasons. And I had the grim satisfaction, or I can hardly say satisfaction, of seeing some of my neighbouring pits, which were not so named, having closed since then. And it's just a question of economics. I wouldn't like to commit myself to how far we'd be able to go.
Could come next week, it could come week after.
We go to Durham Gala to get our rights. Well, it's all the same, I mean.
You can ask a question of any politician. He twists that question round to suit himself. He doesn't answer your question.
Hence the reasons for the questions to Wilson by our General Secretary Hesler about this power station. It's the lifeblood of the area, actually, if we can get it.
The colliery can go on or the colliery can close at any time, just when you're least expecting it. That's what has been happening.
Myself, I can't see it going no 5 or 6 years.
I'll give it 2 years, though, at the most.
This apathy sets in by you don't feel the same. You cannot give your best.
There's no future at all here. I think by about 1970, I think all the pits around this area will be finished.
Well, the present government's fuel policies undoubtedly, I think, hasten the closure of some pits. The pessimistic outlook taken by government circles as to the role of coal in the future, we think in the industry, is quite unwarranted. Undoubtedly, I suppose, in the very long term, nuclear power will inevitably form the base load. But it's quite feasible that the coal industry will outlive both the gas and oil industries, because the known world resources of coal are greater than the known resources of oil and gas. We had a special consultative meeting just before Christmas when the area director came out and told everybody how well it had done. And we've recently broken all productivity records, I should think, in the pit's history. So that morale at the moment is standing very well indeed. And this is a good thing when we are about to face problems with the reduction in seams from 3 to 2 and slightly adverse working conditions. So I think with this type of feeling, if we can only keep the tempo up and keep going and get over these next 2 or 3 difficult months, I think that should set us in a good position to face the next 12 months and 18 months anyway.
The holiday starts next year on August the 4th till August the 17th, so naturally the pit will be open then.
Well, I hope Craghead's going to stay open.
The government says that the pit's got to close in 3 months' time. It'll close. Doesn't matter even what the manager says.
It's what we have to all rely on, and especially when Pam's expecting.
I've got £23 a week. That's for me five shifts. That's without any overtime. And free house and coals, well, that'll fetch it up to near enough £30 a week when you reckon everything in. When I get a job out the pits, I'll not be fetching half what I'm fetching in now. And then I'll have any rent to pay, coals to buy. It'll make a big difference to me. But at the same time, once they do close, we've got the blue sky above her.
July the 23rd, 1968. Alan Harris, 47 years old, married with 2 children, suffered severe head injuries as a result of a roof fall the day before he was due to go on holiday. After his colleagues had struggled for 2 hours to bring him to the surface, he was taken to Newcastle General Hospital. At 9:45 p.m. he died, the first fatal accident at Craghead for 10 years. August, 1 month later. While the headlines are preoccupied with international affairs, the government at last announced their decision on the future of the Seaton Carew power station.
Well, the government's final announced decision to make Seaton Carew a nuclear power station really won't affect pits like Craghead and the West of Durham in the short term, because our resources are now very limited.
I think, I may be wrong, mate, but when the Durham Gala was on, and Harold Wilson was there, I think all but knew then.
Well, I think, Brian, they've just waited and they've chosen the appropriate time through the Czechoslovakia trouble. And that's honest.
Well, that's possible.
I could be right, I could be wrong.
If I were a cynic, I would say they've chosen a time when the headlines have been crowded with Czechoslovakia.
Well, I think it's making it look very black. For a colliery such as Craghead and all these surrounding collieries.
Whether the mining community will accept it as the inevitable steamrolling of bureaucracy, I don't know. But, I mean, it can't have an advantageous effect.
Well, I think it's It's the body blow or the death knell of the colliery. It's the end. And it's a punch under the belt for all the miners in this county, not only Craghead, for the whole county.
Only a week after the Seaton Carew announcement, a special meeting is called at which Craghead's future output of coal per man shift is discussed by NCB Area Deputy Director of Operations, A.Z. Lang.
I would like to touch on some of the results of the past of this colliery. Going back to 1963, the output per man was only 17.7 hundredweights. Over the years, it's increased to 20, 21, 24, and last year it reached 27.6. Now, we won't be able to break even on this. In fact, we'll lose an awful lot of money. And, of course, this would make it very difficult for the pit to remain open very long. With the changeover of faces, we expect there'll be a reduction in manpower of 70 men. There's no reason, providing the conditions are reasonably good, why Craghead can't break even and achieve 30 hundredweights. Now, at this stage, I think I'd like to pass the meeting over to Mr. Robinson.
That's not going to be very easy to attain the amounts of production that we set no target at, eh? And it's got to be a sustained effort before we get it. But I would hate to think that we face this problem today and said, well, it's an impossible task that we set in, because if we do that, then with the people that are a little bit higher up than we are would say, well, all right, you've agreed it's an impossible situation that you're in. The only thing that we can do is to stop that situation for you.
So I wouldn't like to see a position where we come along one day out of the blue and say that this pit's in jeopardy.
Well, I'll ask some of the area men to come out, say, every fortnight. We haven't got to be too optimistic. We've got to realize that the pit has problems. And if we can't make a go of these faces, well, it could mean that the pit may not last as long as we thought it would.
I don't think we're much any wiser as regards the life of the pit since the meeting was over than we were before we went in.
We just have to wait the results, won't we?
Time. Time. Big factor.
Sure. Well, after the meeting, the advances we've been given, I think, a little bit of effort, just a little bit of effort, I think we can make it. There's no reason why we shouldn't. We've done it before, we can do it again.
When a colliery is placed in jeopardy, an ultimatum is given to the miners that unless they can increase production, the pit will close.
Since that meeting, there's been a further consultative meeting, a special one held 2 or 3 weeks later, at which the pit was officially put in jeopardy. The economic position was realized that with the loss of the thicker seam, conditions are going to be very difficult. And the drop in output has been such that the pit at the moment has been losing money. And something will have to be done, and done very quickly, if it is to survive very much longer. We are, in fact, fighting for survival, that the work must go on, and if we are to keep people working at full pressure, then we mustn't allow a feeling of despondency to creep in, which can so easily happen.
Every person, both man and woman, should really go down the mine. Go down a matter of 600 feet. Get out that cage. You've got approximately 2 miles to walk in by. That is before you start your working shift. You get in there and you start with your work, might have about 20 minutes or half an hour for lunch. That's 8 hours down in the mine in the dark, work, sweating all the time. And you've got that hideous walk out again. And believe me, when you get to that shock bottom, you place to get up into them baths, get a shower, and a good meal.
I've never worked on the surface. I went straight underground. I was 15-year-old in 9 months when I started hand put, and that is the worst job that God ever created, hand putting. Shoving it behind a tub all day. It was horses' work. It was terrible conditions, and there was nobody made to have to do that. But of course it was there, and that was it.
The height of the seams at present, which they're working, I would see on an average of around about 20 inches. But in spite of the bad conditions underground, here's a sort of loyalty attached. In fact, everybody's brothers when they're down the pit. And that's the sort of thing that I many times sit, what's going to happen when the pit is finished, you know what I mean, redundant. You haven't got that comradeship, you just automatically drift apart.
I wouldn't go back to them days in the old tub in front of the fire. These baths are different. You get fairly in, you get a good sound wash. Of course, the showers are all right, admittedly, but I'm just getting used to the bath at home, and I think I'll stay that way now till Craghead finishes.
Brian is, but I contained a real good pitman. He's got real good pit sense, has Brian, for all he's my son. He's been selected as what you call a plough controller. And his job is to say that everybody's got the supports in properly and the machinery is running perfect and such like.
With the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years, the hills fill my heart with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every song it hears.
My dog Flossie died about the 12th of October. Great friend, best friend I ever had. I planted this rose where she's buried, just as a marker, and then I know she's at rest there. She's not going to be disturbed. I don't know whether I'll have any more dogs. I don't think so in me own heart anyhow.
I look forward to a weekend very much because I'm on the committee at the club and I'm very interested in the club. It helps to put the time in. If the colliery was to close, I suppose it would make a big difference to the club because the men would be getting jobs at various places round about, and on a weekend it'd probably make nearer the job and seeing friends going to work with. And that way I think that, myself, I think the club would go flat.
December 1968.
We've had this pony for 4 years now, since he went into retirement, which makes him about 25 years old. This pony has had a working life of about 17 years, since they don't start work underground until they're 4 years old. Unfortunately, he'll have to go back now to the board stables in the country, where he'll end his days in retirement with one or two other old pit ponies. Since I learned last week that I've been transferred to one of the coastal pits as deputy manager in charge of production.
It has been a remark passed to me quite several times that Mr. Hughes is automatically leaving the sinking ship.
Well, it's come rather as a shock. Didn't really expect that, and I don't really blame him because he'll have more security where he's going. It's a bigger colliery and that, and it's more or less promotion for him.
Oh, fundamentally, I think I've got to look ahead to the future. I mean, naturally, there are several disappointments in leaving Craghead. I've got a lot of friends here. I have a very great respect for a great number of the workmen and officials at Craghead, and they've been a great help to me, and I feel we've worked very well together as a team. But this is the longest I've ever been at one pit. 2 years has been my average stay up to now.
And Mr. Hughes has been automatically one of the lads. When he goes down the pit, well, he say, "Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Geordie." You know, that's real nice to me.
When you get used to a chap, well, you know exactly his work, what he expects of you, of course. So therefore, you've got to start all over again and get used to the new man coming on.
The new manager at Craghead is going to be an old friend and colleague of mine, Albert Robson.
Unfortunately, I'm coming at a time when it's declining. I think this is rather obvious. I've studied the plans, I've been in the pit, I've had a look at the seams. The seams are very thin indeed. I was on it first today where the core was only 19 inches in thickness. And I'm very much afraid that the future of Craghead is a bit dim.
Although, of course, I shall miss a lot of things in Craghead, I'm not severing all my connections. I very much hope to be at the Old People's Street a week on Saturday.
On behalf of the committee of the Old People's Association, and yours truly, the chairman, may I give you a hearty welcome here this afternoon. Now, it's usual to make a presentation of long-serving members who have worked 49.50 in some over with a service plaque, which is presented from the National Coal Board. I'm turning over now to Mr. Hughes, who will make the presentation, along with our President of the Durham Miners Association, Mr. Kit Robson. Claude Collins.
Just fancy a man walking 50 years down the mine and he gets a piece of paper, certificate. Had they gained them all £100? In fact, some chaps doesn't come and even accept them. And I'm damn sure I wouldn't. And some hangs it up and puts it in a frame and some just throws it in the fire. And that's where mine would go.
Say there next year.
Aged Paper Street is the biggest in this area, in fact the biggest in the northeast. They get a grand tea and they all receive a pound each. This year there'll be approximately 900 people. And even if the pit closes down, this tea will still go on, but I'll not guarantee a pound, or not even guarantee 10 shillings. We'll still carry on with the point of getting the old people together at a Christmas time, even if it's just, we'll say, for a drink of tea. Enjoy your tea, Pet?
Thank you. It's been lovely. Let's hope we're all here again next year.
Oh, by all means. By all means.
A month later, January the 21st, 1969. While George Ord is summoned to a special meeting, Brian Ord has some important news.
Well, Pamela had the baby last Saturday, a little boy. I'm very happy about it indeed, you know, because that's a boy and a girl now, ideal family. £9.5.
He's called Brian after his dad.
There's been a meeting held today at the colliery office, and I'd like to say my father, I think he'll be able to give us a bit of idea as to what's happened at the meeting. Like, I think we're all waiting for the result of that meeting. Everybody working at the colliery. I think everybody's in doubt. In fact, I think there's a lot of men who've got their minds made up that they've got no chance at all. It's losing too much money. It's losing every week. Thousands of pounds.
I am worried, but we can't do nothing about it. It's as simple as that, so we'll just have to take what comes, that's all.
Well, right at the back of my mind, I'm worried, like, you know, but I suppose we'll just have to take what comes. As the wife says, there's not very much you can do about it. If the pit is going to close, well, there's nothing I can do to stop it.
I'd rather it come now and then we'll see where we're going, which way we're going, get settled down, see where he's going to get a job. I don't want him to go in no more pits.
We'll just have to wait and see what happened today at the meeting.
Hello, Brian. Oh, the little pet.
Well, it's a report then. About the meeting.
Well, it's a bad job. Really, we're just getting a month's expansion, Brian. It should have been finished in February. It's definitely finished in March.
What, a complete closure?
Complete closure. Come on, my love.
What about transfers and what's going to happen with the men?
Well, Brian, he'll have to be transferred. It's no good at the age.
Oh, me? Mm-hmm. I didn't have to be.
Oh, there will be.
What happens to Brian if he doesn't want to transfer?
Well, he'll definitely get no redundancy money to start with. If we put on the dole, and then again he's refused employment, he'll not get the dole for 6 weeks. That's a position. It's a government policy, this farm. It's hard lines, I know, but still.
Well,
my advice, Brian, is for the get transferred to Coastal Pit. He's just a young lad and he's very efficient.
I would rather him get a job out of the pits altogether, make a clean break.
Oh,
you may get a house for the meantime.
I'll try and get out the pits one altogether. You know yourself, pits is no good for nobody.
No, in my opinion, it should have a T&I 50 years ago. But nevertheless, that's the way it is.
It's got to close. We know it's got to close. So it's a waste of time, really, sticking in, isn't it? Yeah.
But while a single ray of hope lingers on that perhaps the closure will be postponed and the pit will be reprieved, the miners struggle on to raise the output of coal per man shift.
You can only put a man to his limits, but by God, you can't put him beyond it. And if you ask a man to produce 3,000 weights per man shift, when you know yourself that you can't produce 2,500 weights a man shift, why ask that man to give himself, to give his body, to give his lot, to kill himself, in fact, to try to produce that extra 500 weight when you know in yourself that it's impossible.
On the 28th of February 1969, a further meeting is held, attended by union representatives and presided over by William Welsh, Area Director for the NCB.
The weekly figures of performance of the colliery have been made known to the trade union since the last meeting, and I'd like to run through them. The output has actually dropped 96 tons per day in the February period as compared to January. So we see in that, gentlemen, that the results, far from improving, have actually deteriorated. The financial position of the colliery, of course, has been very bad indeed, and for the first 10 months of the year, the colliery has lost £177,000. And taking in the estimated loss for February, this will be up to £200,000 by the end of this week. Now, the board's proposals are firmly as follows: that the colliery should be closed on Friday, the 11th of April. 702 men on the books at the moment, and of these, 75 men will be retained at the colliery on salvage. There are at the pit 127 men at the moment over the age of 55 years of age, and it's proposed that these men should be retired. 448 men underground would be offered employment at other collieries. And this would mean that there would be a final redundancy, excluding the over 55s, of only 52 men.
That is your final answer?
That is the final decision.
Well, if that's the final answer, I think we're more or less going to accept it. We were making an attempt and would have very much liked to make the attempt for to keep the pit going because of the high unemployment rate in this particular part of the country. One's got to remember that the unemployment rate in this particular part of the country is about 3 times, or possibly 4 times, the national average.
I feel optimistic from this point of view that the number of jobs that are to offer and the pits there to go to, I think the men from Craghead, when they get settled at these pits, will be extremely happy.
In your case comes up that you are redundant, you are no longer required. That man should have his redundancy money. He should not be directed to go to a pit 20 miles away. We know it's not very far by a bus or a car. I'll admit that. But why should that man be told to go there? It's conscription over again.
We like to see these village pits continue because generally they give a first-class performance, as Craghead has done. And we regret the closure very much indeed. But again, I come back to the point that I'm satisfied that probably 2/3 of the men are going to pits where the conditions are so much better than Craghead.
March 1969. In addition to local redeployment, the men are given the chance to move further afield. A mobile coalboard van comes to Craghead, manned by Harry Clough, a former Craghead Union official, who explains to the men the conditions in coalfields such as Yorkshire and the Midlands, and arranges for miners and their wives to visit these areas.
Tomorrow we're taking a visit to this colliery here. This is what we call Kellingley Colliery. It's in the North Yorkshire area.
A Kellingley official takes over.
If you don't come down, and we hope you will, I'm sure you'll be making a good move, there's no doubt about it. This is the finest colliery in the country. The seams are 9-foot, virgin. It's a brand new pit. We're using all the latest equipment, so you can rest assured that you've got a stable future. You won't be coming here and then within probably a couple of 3 years' time, you know, somebody was saying, well, your pit's going to close, which has probably happened to you up in Durham.
Well, I think I would rather stop in Craghead, but I might as well make the break now when I've got to.
because there's no future there.
The housing, this is tip-top. It's a brand new housing estate. On the whole, the majority of the Durham miner is an easy man to get along with. And I think you integrate into the community very well. That's my opinion about it. You have your own welfare, which I believe you have 3 or 4 TV artists on each night. There's a brand new dance hall, bowling alley, restaurant, bathing pool. So everything in that respect is taken care of.
Having seen what is offered, 26 Craghead families make the agonizing decision to drag up their roots, leave behind friends, relatives, and the familiarities of a lifetime in order to carry on their mining livelihood in new areas a long way off. For most of them, it's the first move they have ever made, the first time they have left their birthplace. Colliery manager Albert Robson.
I've been bred and born on the west side of Durham, and I know full well the heartache that closing the pit down causes. Here we have a village which is isolated. It's got no other community life except the pit itself. Most of the people work at the pit, and when we close these down, we break up not only the pit but the village life as well. For all, most people will still remain in the village. The majority of them will be working outside the village, and this doesn't lend to the same close-knit community as what it does when the people are employed at the colliery.
Since we had that closure meeting, the atmosphere has been very, very low. Everybody seems to be in a worry what they're going to do next, whether to go away, emigrate down to the Midlands, or whether to go to a factory. And oh, it's been terrible.
It's a big blow to everyone. These people all moving away.
Oh, the canyon. Oh, it is at the front.
Well, the last closure meeting we had, the decision was that all men above 55 was asked for to be redundant. But through my age, 58 approximately, going on for 59, I feel that I've had enough. Now, I will get a lump sum in gratuity plus 9/10 of my wages for 3 years, which, the way I feel at present, I'll make my decision after the 3 years, because I don't feel too well to start with. In fact, I honestly feel as if I've had enough, and this pit closure hasn't come too soon for me.
No, I'm glad that this has come.
It should have happened 50 years ago. There should be no pits. Pits are no good for nobody. No, it ruins the health, everything. No good. In my opinion, a man's more or less a rat down the mine.
Today we've reached the last day of production. As a matter of fact, at this moment, the last production shift is in being at the colliery. This closure is one of many, of course, that has taken place in the west side of Durham. We must remember that historically, the west side of Durham was the birthplace of coal mining. So therefore, coal mining has been taking place here longer than anywhere else in the world. And naturally, being an extractive industry, exhaustion must come sooner or later. The closure of this colliery has gone very, very smoothly indeed. We're taking away from people a livelihood, a way of life in actual fact. We're taking away landmarks. We're taking away a whole community. We're breaking it up. So therefore, it must be depressing on every occasion, and it's something you will never get used to. You'll get used to the procedure of doing it, but in actual fact, it's still very, very depressing.
Well, I've worked my last shift at Craghead Colliery. I'm taking my boots and clothes over to a new colliery. It's a pity Craghead's had to close, but nevertheless, I'm on my road, I'm on the way.
Brian's left the pit and he's gone to a tyre factory at Burnhope. It's about 1.5 miles away. He's been there for 2 weeks now. He was a bit strange at first, but he's settling down a bit better now. I'm pleased he's left the pits, but I knew it would take time for him to adjust to another job out of the pits because that's all he's done, you see.
It's a lot different to pit work, the heat and one thing and another. Well, I've overcome that now. Like the first 2 or 3 weeks, the first week rather, I thought, oh, I'll not be able to stick this. I'm getting used with it there now, and I'm quite happy. The money's good, and I'll stick to the job as long as the job's here for me. I'm quite happy and content.
And so, in July 1969, the life of Craghead Colliery nears its end, with the final salvaging of valuable machinery and materials to be transplanted and used in active pits in the area. The colliery office, a central landmark, goes up for sale. A few buildings will survive for light industries, but the remainder will be demolished and buried in the pit shaft. The pit ponies are brought up and taken to retirement at the coal board stables. The shoes which hold the cages to the wire are released and plummet 900 feet to the bottom of the shaft. The last job is to release the cage from the chains. From this moment on, no man can go down the shaft, and no coals can be brought up from the coal face. Craghead Colliery is dead.
You are not the ones who theorize about the need for change in Britain. You are the ones who have to experience it.